Hello, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on from where part of the world you are connecting with us. It's a pleasure. Welcome to another Networking Friday session organized by the AIR Center. I'm Elisa Ravagnan. I'm Senior Research Scientist at NORCE, Norwegian Research Centre, here up in Norway, in the far north. And I'm an environmental scientist, and I'm also the proud coordinator of the Age 2020 project ASTRAL, that will be the main topic of today. So the problematic of the aquaculture and the sustainable aquaculture are, and how ASTRAL would like to contribute in the solution. Before going to the very most interesting part, at least for me, is the science, of course, also for you if you are here with us. Just a brief technical comment. Please write your question for the Q&A at the end of the last presentation. Write in the appropriate chat, the Q&A chat, and we will take care of answering all of them online now, live, or otherwise we will answer you privately afterwards. So don't be shy, and please ask and comment away. We are hoping to have a very engaged and nice discussion with all of you. And now back to the science and to the fun. So I will share my screen now. Just a moment, of course, it's technical, this one. I hope you will see now, and yes. And now it's in presentation mode. So I was saying, I'm Elisa Ravagnan, and I'm
sorry, Elisa, we're not seeing the presentation. You're not seeing.
Oh, no? Okay.
No.
No?
Yes, now we are. Okay.
Yes. Thank you. Yes, okay. So, as I said, I am Elisa Ravagnan. I'm the coordinator of the ASTRAL project. And ASTRAL is the short name of a very long title that is All Atlantic Ocean Sustainable, Profitable, and Resilient Aquaculture. This project has been awarded by an Age 2020 call, the BG08 in 2019, the All Atlantic Ocean Research Alliance flagship in the subtopic New Value Chain for Aquaculture Production. We just, in a few months, we will have our first birthday. So we just start basically our activity, and we will go ahead for 4 years. The call, and of course the ASTRAL project, is dedicated in contributing in implementing the Belém Statement, so the agreement between the European Union, Brazil, and South Africa, but also other agreements, like for example the one from the European Union and Argentina, and all the nice agreements that now are continuing to be signed, and they contribute to build the research activity along the two sides of the Atlantic. So we are very proud to be a contributor of the All Atlantic Ocean Research Community. So today we will have 4 or 5 panelists talking about issues in sustainable aquaculture and how ASTRAL would like to contribute. But I would like to give you a little bit more context about our project. So the ASTRAL Consortium, as we'll say, is a very all-Atlantic consortium. We have a partner from both sides of the ocean, and is of course multidisciplinary. We are tackling a lot of science, business, economy, environment, biology, technology, but it's also a multi-sectoral. So beside the more heavy scientific component like academia and research in technology organizations, we have also industry, such as SMEs or association and industrial clusters, but also the contribution of governmental and intergovernmental organizations. Very few words about Astral. Astral is main aim, as the title is saying, is to develop a new, sustainable, profitable and resilient value chain. And we have chosen to dedicate the project to the integrated multi-trophic aquaculture production. And we are working within a framework of existing, emerging and potential Atlantic markets. So, as you can see from the design, from the drawing in the slide, our IMTA case study that we call IMTA Lab are the center of the project, are where the main action is happening on the production, and Joanna will talk about that afterwards. And we have 5 of them: Ireland, South Africa, Brazil, Scotland, and Argentina. But of course, to improve the production with the new species and new chain is not enough. We also want to assess the circularity that is already embedded in the IMTA concept, since several species in different trophic level are grown together. And also our IMTA address not only the classical open system in open waters, but also with the flow-through and recirculating technology. But all of that, of course, is circular already in itself, but we would like to increase this circularity and also to assess the environmental impact that those activities could have. And of course, we are talking about aquaculture, that is an industry, so it's a business. So it is important also to assess that what we are proposing is both feasible and profitable. And we will address that in the project through the socioeconomic assessment and cost-benefit analysis. We need also, we are seeing if we are profitable and if we are in line with what the societal needs are, but we also need to control both the production and the interaction to and from the environment. And technology will help us a lot. In fact, in Astral, we are developing an innovative pool of technology that are various sensor and various system, and not only to monitor the production, I was saying, but also the environment. Also, for example, stressor, emerging pollutants like the harmful algal bloom, the pathogens and the microplastic, and the effect of climate change that are related to the aquaculture production. And all of that will be managed and integrated by artificial intelligence data analytics platform. Everything is really very interesting. Everything is really very exciting. But of course, partnership is the key. And for this reason, we are saying that the Astral is a collaboration ecosystem. Because we want more and more engage with the stakeholders at all type and all level. So we, through our stakeholder database and platform, that is the Aquaculture Helix, we will implement different activities through what we call the Atlantic Aquaculture Network. And from there, we will develop and co-create with all of you. So it is really very important, this aspect. And only in this way, we could achieve the final goal of the project. That is, of course, cost-effective and resilient production, profitability, improvement of nutrition and health, addressing the consumer needs and the trust and confidence, not forgetting the capacity building that we afterwards Patricia will talk about, the new generation and also the role of women in this industry. And we would like to establish, of course, our goal is to establish long-term cooperation and partnership and to foster business opportunity for the industry. I think I will stop here for my side. It is important to, I think it's more important to leave the floor to my co-panelist today. And I would like to introduce you the first of our speaker. Is Joanne Casserly that is a scientific and technical officer from the Marine Institute in Ireland. And she has focused her research in IMTA systems, so exactly what we are working with in ASTRAL. And she's also in ASTRAL, she has the role of co-leading the work package that is coordinating all our case study. So I would like to ask Joanne to share her screen and start talking the ASTRAL IMTA labs and present peculiarity of each one across the Atlantic. Thank you, Joanne.
Thank you, Elisa, for that introduction. So hopefully you will see my presentation appear.
It's not in present. Yeah, perfect.
There we go. Perfect. Just a bit slow. So as Elisa mentioned, integrated multi-trophic aquaculture is at the heart of ASTRAL. So what I'm going to do is give a brief introduction to IMTA to frame the purpose of the work before introducing each lab's own unique application of IMTA. So integrated multi-trophic aquaculture, or IMTA or IMTA as it's known, is a term to describe a specific concept in aquaculture. And it's not new, it's centuries old, in fact, but the acronym that we come to regularly use and discuss was coined in 2004 by Thierry Chopin at a conference in Canada. And most current aquaculture practices are single species or monoculture focused, and the addition of species to that area is known as polyculture. IMTA is a specific type of polyculture, and it requires growing 2 or more species, and for those species to be linked to each other, serving a complementary function within the ecosystem. And this linked or integrated element is key. So the idea is that the organic and inorganic waste from one species serves as a nutritional input for the others. And this waste is then reused, and as a nutritional input for the next species, it's eliminated. It's now a useful byproduct or co-product. And it's important to know that IMTA, it's a concept, it's not a formula, but it can be uniquely applied to a range of production systems. It can be simple, like placing high extractive species alongside finfish sites, for example, or it can be applied to land-based freshwater systems like open pond culture and producing fish and high-yielding plants such as duckweed. Or we can then consider IMTA on a base scale with an overall nutrient trading cycle or budget. So as you can see, it can be uniquely applied and adapted to a range of production systems and also scales. And the reason for this is, of course, the benefits that IMTA provides. So IMTA diversifies production systems with a host of direct and indirect benefits and reduction in ecological impacts. It's a move from a more linear model to a more circular whole ecosystem approach. It provides waste reduction service to the industry through bioremediation. It helps to improve the societal perception of aquaculture. IMTA products have an advantage on the marketplace. It also helps to decouple economic growth from resource use. Different IMTA models can bring different community benefits, such as restocking initiatives with some species, and also adding additional species to the space available allows numerous products to be produced within the same space, which utilizes the resources more effectively and efficiently. There are commercial benefits from growing other products in the same sites, and diversity provides alternate incomes and cash flows for producers, which increases the resilience of businesses. And beyond just the biomass, the true value of these added species is in the ecosystem services and the nutrient trading that some of the low trophic species provide before even being valued at the farm gate. So how do we seek to apply these benefits and establish IMTA systems? In ASTRAL, we have our 5 IMTA labs with 4 key objectives. So the first is to assess the existing and potential IMTA in recirculation systems, flow through open systems, both offshore and onshore, with an emphasis on improving these production methods to reach optimal production regimes, and that's taking into account the different range of species coexisting in these systems. From there, we can design new IMTA processes, and this is in each region with emphasis on the regional challenges. Then we can validate the symbiotic production relationships of IMTA and identify benefits through the production cycles, assessing cost effectiveness in these systems. And then at the end is to develop and share this knowledge on production methods, welfare criteria, health management, biosecurity, and so on towards the best IMTA practices. In addition to our objectives, the project team will also look to their own implementation of IMTA to assess the challenges and mitigations of the IMTA systems. And this will be done in three main areas: circularity, climate change, and then risks posed from HABs, pathogens, and microplastics. Circularity will be assessed in the IMTA systems to quantify how the IMTA process can best move towards zero waste. Climate change risks will be identified, and monitoring practices will be put in place to be developed to help mitigate against these potential risks. HABs, pathogens, and microplastics are known to pose considerable risks to IMTA species, and biotic and abiotic factors will be assessed in order to monitor and develop ways to cope with the potential threat that these also cause to the aquaculture sector. So I look to our IMTA labs. Our first lab is run by the Marine Institute in Ireland. It is an open coastal IMTA system. It's 21.5 hectares of licensed marine multi-species research sites, and it's the first of its kind in Ireland. Finfish are stocked in pens in a traditional but scaled down grid system. And then there's the addition of a low trophic area, closing out the site, which holds plants and invertebrates in different structures. And these can utilize the downstream nutrient sources from the fish. The design focus is on enabling species to be added to traditional aquaculture sites. And this arrangement makes space for IMTA in traditional monoculture locations. We've recently moved to a more high resolution and real-time monitoring to better understand the culture environment. So a suite of sensors at multiple locations and depths provides data to our enhanced decision support system to help support the management of the site. Our species then, so our fed species are salmon and lumpfish. So feed is input to the system for the fish, which then release the waste nutrients into the surrounding water. Our extractive species, we have our filter feeders, so oysters and scallop, which filter out particulate waste as food. And our seaweeds, Alaria, Zacharina, and Dillis, absorb the dissolved minerals and carbon. We also have some novel or indirect species. So urchins are fed the seaweed grown in the IMTA process, and this enhances circularity at the site. And we also have some juvenile lobsters that utilize the fish waste, but these are released in juvenile form as a stock enhancement initiative, linking coastal industries rather than being grown to full size at the site. Our main activities will be to further research the cultivation methods and the feasibility of these IMTA species. We look at cultivation infrastructure and technologies to best culture within economic constraints. We look at the growth constraints of the individual species added and to develop best practice of these within the production systems, overall to demonstrate IMTA as a suitable and sustainable approach for the aquaculture industry. Our next IMTA lab is in Brazil, and this is a biofloc system operated by FERG. And FERG have vast experience with shrimp production and biofloc systems, and these systems see high production, high water reuse, and reduced FCRs. There are associated problems and potential for nutrient buildup, and that's something that the team in FERG will explore in ASTRAL. So FERG will explore the feasibility of the integration of white shrimp, tilapia, their native oyster, ulva, and sea asparagus in their IMTA system with biofloc. Overall, the objective will be to determine the biomass relationship between the species, reduce the feed conversion ratio in the system even further, increase the biomass production of each of the high-value livestock species, while providing the opportunity for the biofloc community to expand to support the additional capacity. They will identify the flow rates and other management protocols and develop a simple parameterized economic model of the cost involved in the production of all 4 livestock species. And that is so you can replicate this production technology for other producers. Our next lab is in South Africa. So this is a land-based pump ashore system with our partners from the University of Cape Town, and it's located about 200 kilometers east of Cape Town on Buffaloag's Abalone farm. This is a commercial aqua farm run by Partners Viking Aquaculture. So here ulva is grown in abalone effluent water in large paddle raceways, and it's then used as an additional feed. In addition, 50% of the water from the ulva systems is recirculated back into the abalone tanks. And the overall objective of the IMTA lab in South Africa is to develop and validate cost-effective IMTA in these type of land-based pump-ashore systems. And they hope to research further insight on biosecurity, species and system health, the physical and chemical parameters of abalone and ulva IMTA systems, look at the culture technology for production of a new high-value species, the sea urchin Trypnosis gratilla, and the use of waste from the Cape sea urchin as a possible feed or probiotic input for juvenile abalone. So to counteract the main constraints that IMTA systems in South Africa face, the team in UTC proposed three main research questions for the abalone ulva system, and that is to characterize the microbiome to determine the benefits and potential risk associated with IMTA systems. They're going to monitor the parameters of the IMTA system to optimize the health and growth of the cultivated species and determine whether this fecal matter from the Cape sea urchin can serve as a feed or a probiotic for the juvenile abalone to further promote further integration and health of the existing system. To diversify the sector, the team will look to adapt the current IMTA system to allow for the production of the sea urchin Trypnosis gratilla as a high-value species. And for this work, we'll focus on optimal physical and chemical parameters of the IMTA system, optimal design for an urchin ulva IMTA, bioremediation capacity of the ulva in this scenario. So will there be sufficient nutrients to sustain growth of the ulva? And then which substrates will be optimal to promote settlement of the urchin larvae? They'll also look at optimal stocking densities, basket designs, grading, feeding, and all the methods involved in commercial cultivation of this species. Our next IMTA lab is in Scotland. It's another open coastal IMTA system, and this is operated by our partners at SAMS. And their main objective is to develop new IMTA value chains, but by further developing cultivation techniques and increasing the number of trophic groups present at the farms by doing this. So to develop a more efficient system, they want to lower the cost and therefore increase the range of products that can be produced. So SAMS have 4 types of seaweed, Zacharina, Alaria esculenta, Laminaria digitata, and Dillisk. They will mainly culture native oyster, and they'll also have the potential for mussels and scallops in this scenario also. And to do this, the main activities will be through cultivation trials to improve productivity and inform best practice with a specific focus on depth and environmental parameters and stocking densities, as you can see by the experimental design in these graphics. They'll also look at integrated growing systems, such as an oyster seaweed growing system together on long lines. And finally, they're going to focus on monitoring, so moving away from manual to autonomous data collection with high resolution monitoring in the site to inform decision making. And our final lab is our prospective IMTA lab, and this is in Argentina. This is a replication case building on the knowledge from the other IMTA labs and following the overarching approach of ASTRAL. This lab is operated by CONICET and located in the Beagle Channel in Tierra del Fuego province. The channel is 200 kilometers long, extending east to west, connecting the Atlantic and the Pacific Oceans. And total current marine aquaculture in Argentina is almost non-existent, with only 20 tons produced per year. So there's currently no aquaculture producers in the area, with the exception of one farmer growing rainbow trout at an artisanal scale. So ASTRAL will be the first project delivering knowledge and capacity to design an IMTA system. And the main objective of ASTRAL in Argentina is to develop opportunities and to generate opportunities to develop IMTA from the beginning in the Beagle Channel. The objective here will be focused on the potential of local species to be used in IMTA systems. Historically, attempts to develop aquaculture in the Beagle Channel have focused on monocultures such as rainbow trout and mussels. However, many other species that are highly valued in the local market could be combined in a multi-trophic system. The aquaculture of these species has some degree of development. However, much work is still needed to be done to complete a profitable production cycle. So the activities in this IMTA lab will be more to identify the factors that have impeded aquaculture development in this region, define future activities to boost the aquaculture, and then design a prospective IMTA lab IMTA design and system for this region. And to achieve these activities, it's essential to get the participation of stakeholders. So currently the team in CONICET are building strong interactions with the local stakeholders at all decision levels and connecting them with the ASTRAL community. So as you can see, there's plenty of work to be done, a wide variation of systems and approaches in this cross-Atlantic alliance. So we're very much looking forward to delving into this research, and hopefully we'll have some interesting updates for you in the future. My email is here if you have any questions beyond today's forum. I'll try to answer myself or get you in touch with our project partners who can. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Joanna. It's a really very nice overview about all the work that we are doing in our IMTA lab. And I'm sure there is a lot of questions coming up, and we will address them in the QA session. Sorry, a moment off. So our second speaker is my colleague at NORCE, Dominique Durand, Senior Strategy Advisor. And Dominique, I apologize, has worked many years in the partnership research and innovation. And he's also the innovation manager in our project. Dominique, please talk about innovation trends.
I can take over, Elisa.
Thank you.
But yeah, first, very happy to be here today. Thank you for the AST Center and for the ASTRAL project for inviting me to talk today. I'm going to talk about innovation trends in aquaculture. The focus will be a little bit on the marine aquaculture, or the example at least will be more related to marine aquaculture, but you will see that a lot of what I'm going to present also have possible applications and relevance also for freshwater aquaculture. So I hope that it will open also for a good debate. Yep. So and why marine aquaculture as the example I'm going to take is because around the Atlantic, so most of the aquaculture is marine based. So of course you have also freshwater, but you see in this picture that when you are talking Norway, Chile, and Canada, and some other key countries also in Europe, so the marine environment is where things, the most of the production is happening today, which is basically the inverse when you are looking to the Southeast Asia. And we know that aquaculture production can be in pounds. So if we are talking freshwater, it can be in pounds. It can be in lakes, in open environment. It can be in flow-through systems. There is a emerging of recycling or recirculating aquaculture system also, and the same thing applies to the marine aquaculture with a lot of production happening in the coastal zone, still in open cages, but also with new developments moving the production in other systems and in other environments, and I will touch a bit on that. So basically, I'm going to talk a little bit on the sustainability-driven innovations because when we're talking about innovation trends, a lot of the innovation are basically driven by the requirement of being more sustainable. I will come back to that. I will talk about the intensification of aquaculture and also of the Industrial Revolution #4, so Industry 4.0, but with its application in aquaculture sector, which is Aquaculture 4.0, and what it brings as a new opportunity and a new possibility for the aquaculture sector. I will touch a little bit on another part of innovation, but related to sustainable feed for aquaculture. And I will conclude a little bit with the circularity, but Joanna has been touching also quite a lot on that through her presentations. I will be very superficial on that, but just with some perspective of innovation. So, but and first, sustainability-driven innovation. So before going into the detail of that, so I need to come back to basically the essence and what is the main challenge. So half of the human population is relying on fish and on seafood as their main protein supply in their diet. And it has already led to the aquaculture growing and taking a larger and larger part of the provision of these sea-based proteins and challenging the fisheries in terms of production in different parts of the world. And all this is also linked or can be linked and can be also a contribution to one of the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations related to no hunger. So feeding the world, so this is what we're talking about really. And but feeding the world in a context where sustainability, climate neutrality, low environmental footprint, quality, food security is also very high on the agenda. That also put a lot of constraint into the production and the increase of the production. So when we are talking about sustainability, so we are talking on environment, we are talking on the economical sustainability, so also having a development that actually doesn't put an enormous cost on the production that will make the production possibly not competitive anymore. And of course, there is the consumers and us as citizens also putting a lot of constraint and pressure also on how the way should be carried out. So basically, we need to have growth in aquaculture. The growth has to be sustainable economically. It has to answer to the societal pressure and the consumer pressure, and it has also to develop into the context where climate change has a lot of implication and an impact, often negative on the aquaculture sector. And I will come back a bit on that, but also some bringing some opportunities also in terms of possibly diversification of species that could be found. So, and all these aspects are also very well connected to the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Will it be the part on the industrialization, on the responsible consumption, of course, the fresh or the land-based and the water-based also environment and the climate action. So, going a bit down into some specificities. So when we're looking at the challenges towards sustainable growth, so it goes a lot on the adaptation on the aquacultural practices as they are done now. If we think about economical sustainability, so what intensive farming means and what does it require? Certainly more control on the production, better risk management, better control also on the impact of the production. Societal sustainability, people and us as citizens, we are preoccupied or concerned with welfare in animal production, about the health and the food security, the food quality, the traceability of what we are eating. And if we are looking to economic sustainability, so we can think about I forgot for the societal sustainability also on the environmental footprint also, which is something that citizens are very concerned about. And on the economic sustainability side, so it's about the circularity, how to improve the production and how possibly to innovate without extra cost or at least having an added value which is much higher than the investment necessary for to be carried out through investment. And the new feed sources also is a part of this aspect of sustainable growth. So how to make sustainable feed and enough sustainable feed for production. Looking a bit narrower also now to the environmental sustainability. So here, so we know that if we are talking open aquaculture production or in open cages, will it be in the marine or in lakes? So the environment surrounding the production is impact the production, but the production also impact the environment. So you have these two ways. And of course, the impact from the environment, so it can be seen as pathogens, disease, toxic algae, so making a very dramatic scenario in the aquaculture industry around the world every year, and some aspects of climate change that basically are expected to increase the risk for pathogens, the risk for toxic algae. This is touched in the ASTRAL project in one of the work package when we are looking at that very closely. On the other hand, so you have the impact of the aquaculture on the environment, and then of course, so there is the waste produced by the production in form of sludge, of remaining feeds, just living being in the environment and leading to eutrophication and diverse perturbation of the environment. A big thing also is related to sustainable feed is that, and I will come back to that, but a big part of the fish feed now is produced by wild fish oil and fish meal, putting a lot of pressure actually on the overfishing actually to produce enough feed ingredients for aquaculture. And this is a dead end that with a lot of activity to find new sources of feeds and sustainable feeds at present. And of course, so the aquaculture, the production itself and the intensive production can increase the risk of disease and in the environment and affecting other the ecosystem or other organisms around the fishing production or the farming production site, and linking also to this farm versus wild population with some also possible interaction or genetic interactions that might not be expected or wanted. So the first trend in innovation related to that, so it's changing production system. And I will focus on the fish farming for this particular point. And what are the trends here? The first trend is from open to closed system. So going from open cages to system which is closed on land or on site, but so can be flow through systems, semi-closed containment system. So there is different ways of solving that. But the goal with that is to reduce the risk of disease, of toxic algae, limiting the environmental footprint because nothing or everything is kept inside, but it also open for the possibility of collecting the sludge and the waste and to try to valorize this aspect and create new value chain and new economics around more circularity based on waste. And it gives also a possibility to intensify the production within the present regulatory framework without change in the regulatory framework because the environmental impact will be preserved. The other line of or trend is also from coast, if we are talking about the marine production, to either land-based through a recirculating aquaculture system or toward offshore type production. And you see so in the image some of the things on the offshore side, which is developing now. So you have this Ocean Farm 1, which is a big farm of the size of the football field, basically, but operating completely offshore, and that require a lot of new technology and technological development to be achieved. Another is the MOVI deep farming concept with nothing at the surface and everything at 20-30 meter depth to remove risk related especially to toxic algae, some disease, and having some optimal production conditions. And of course, IMTA has a great opportunity, but I will not talk about that because Joanne has been talking intensively about that. So the trend 2 is the digitizing of this industrial sector, what we call aquaculture 4.0. So aquaculture 4.0 or industry 4.0 is the next step. So it's from robotic to smart system with Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, decision making or decision support systems implemented in the production, basically. And there is a lot of things happening in the aquaculture industry nowadays in their path to be digitized. So digitizing is all about having more control on what is happening, basically, in the cage. an example, so yeah, it's so developing digital twin. So it means models mimicking what is happening in the aquaculture production site to have the possibility to carry what if scenarios, change, optimize also the production without doing that on the site itself. And it required also a lot of technology for observing and gathering data on the environment and on the production itself that can lead to developing this smart system and decision-making systems. Some example of that, an unexpected game changer on that is what we call the biology online. Nowadays, so in aquaculture, there is some monitoring of the environment, of the water quality, the temperature, the oxygen content, and so on, but very little information on the animal, the organism which are actually grown or found. And this is a big drawback actually in terms of optimizing the operations, optimizing the feeding, for example, or even the vaccination or the cleaning of the production site based on what the fish or the crustacean or the shrimp is experiencing. So basically, there is a lot of development now related to artificial intelligence and data to go from this fish saying blob blob to a fish saying to us, I'm stressed, I'm eating, I'm full, I'm feel good. So basically observing and gathering data on the organism themselves in their environment to infer how they are doing and as a basis for decision making in the production activity or actions. So yeah, continuous monitoring of fish health, behavior, and welfare is the start for fish, but it can also be implemented for shrimp at least. Anticipating and dimensioning operations based on that, and optimizing production site knowledge with early warning information, basically, which is the goal. Example of how this is done. So here with an example from Greece. Where we have been implementing cameras in cages, basically, and we are using the camera images through automatic image processing to infer the velocity of the fish, speed, directions, and to because has a proxy for the behavior of the fish, and the behavior of the fish can be very much linked to if the fish is hungry, or if it is eating, or if it is full and resting, or if it is stressed by something, by an external constraint, and so on. So this automatic pattern recognition and in real time give a very strong information on the from the behavior of the fish on the what is the situation to steer, basically, for example, the feeding, what time we should start feeding the fish, what time we can stop feeding, then reducing the amount of feed not eaten that would be a direct footprint on the environment, for example, and at the same time saving a lot of cost because the feeds is the biggest budget in fish production nowadays. In Astral, another aspect is promoted a bit on the same line, also with using a camera and a vision-based technology with a lot of artificial intelligence and deep learning algorithms behind, also to look at, to evaluate the biomass of the organism produced. So here you have an example with a shrimp, and trying to push the algorithm to answer to requirements in complicated environment with non-clear water is the case, as you can see in this image. So so here again, artificial intelligence imaging to try to infer biomass, behavior, and having more control on what the farm organism is experiencing. Another example from Astral, so it's this artificial intelligence data analytics platform where so different type of sensor developed in Astral and will be so it's integrated and with artificial intelligence algorithm developed based on that to answer different specific aspect of control and decision making in IMTA or IMTA production. Another example, I'm going a bit quick on that, also from Astral, trying to use low-cost camera, easy to buy on the market by everyone, to look at different aspects of the environment. Here, so in this example, so we are developing a capacity to evaluate phytoplanktons classifications, so then also related to harmful algal blooms problematic, for example, but also using the same system to look at microplastics. And then it's the data analytics that is solving the problem based on the same data to start with. You will have a lot of information on that in the next talk from Bruna Guterres. But the big vision in terms of farming, so yeah, this is the smart farming of the future. So now we are integrating technology using also the capability of communication provided by 5G communication to provide some more synoptic management to farmers. And on the right hand side, so you see what is going to be certainly the aqua farmer in the future, sitting in a seat and controlling all these sites and production. And of course, this is very relevant for IMTA type production when you have to follow different species, different production site, different production aspects, and trying to see how things are optimized all the time. But the very important things here is that the human dimension is extremely important to take into account. Presently, aqua farmers are farmers. They are not IT people, and they don't plan to become IT people or a computer geek, and it creates a lot of constraint in the willingness for companies to digitize their production, but with the people and the competence and the profile and the willingness of their employees. So it will be solved, but it's really a big question always when we are talking about digitizing and in the future. It's about the change of profile and of jobs, of type of jobs, also related to this. Very shortly, so I will touch a little bit on the sustainable feeds and with the example of fish feed. So here, fish feed is changing a lot. If you 15 or 20 years back, so basically you will see that the fish-based ingredients as fish meal and fish oil coming from waste from aquaculture, but a lot from capture fish was the main part of the feed, and putting a lot of constraint and a lot of negative impact on the fisheries and the intensification of fisheries and overfishing, basically. So the feeding company and the sector is moving and has been moving the last 20 years actually to go away from that, putting more plants as in terms of not using fish meal but more soy now. But so soy is extremely used for the time being, but with a lot of negative impact on the carbon footprint because the soy is produced in place of the world where the aquaculture is not possibly very intense, and then everything has to be transported, and then the CO2 footprint from transport is something has become problematic. So basically, we have to reduce, but we have also to find new ways of producing the ingredients for the feeds more locally and through sustainable production line. And I will give 2 examples of that. That very much relates also to the circular bioeconomy system. So here you see that yes, you can use the sludge from aquaculture, so feces, rest of uneaten feed, and so on, and recirculate that as a nutrient or carbon source to grow microalgae or to grow bacteria that will produce back ingredients for feeds. So it's a short circle where basically you're reusing the sludge to reproduce feed. And this is already pre-operational here. The good thing that doing that, you are also to use CO2 sources that can come from capture of CO2 from a big plant or energy plant or manufacturer plant, and then you are also reducing CO2 emission and reusing the CO2 captured in those lines. So two benefits to say it like that. But in terms of circularity, so everything is about from waste to value. So there is no waste use without having a value. So it means that the most interesting value chain are now being looked at. And you can have short value chain, or you can have longer value chain. You can have a very easy recirculation aspect to be implemented with low value at the end, but at least you get rid of your sludge as of using that as fertilizer, for example. But you can also think about a value chain where the sludge is used to produce much high value compound, as platform chemicals that can go into bioplastics, into a lot of different sectors that will require more investment to start with, but giving much more value at the end. So many different possibilities. And IMTA as such is also, as presented by Joanne, a very strong circularity approach also for fish farming, but that always will have some remaining waste possibly to be exploited through other line or value chain. And in ASTRAL, as it was a bit presented by Joanne, so there is a very strong focus on not only developing IMTA, but really assessing how the IMTA and the different IMTA system develop, improve or respond to the zero waste target for aquaculture, which is one of the goals, at least in Europe. How circular actually the IMTA labs are through objective analysis of this, and of course we're looking also at the life cycle in total in comparison to monoculture models. So we expect to bring a lot of very concrete inputs and evaluation on circularity through ASTRAL. So my take-home message, because I think I've been a bit long, sorry for that, but is that the aquaculture sector is starting its sustainability revolution. It's very much a consumer push and technology pull. It requires a lot of adaptation, not least in terms of change of practices in the aquaculture sector. Technology is just an enabler of that, but this enabler is within this framework of the industry 4.0 or aquaculture 4.0 for what we are talking about today. Climate neutral and zero waste aquaculture is the next target, which is already upon us, but we have to prove that these innovations basically are responding to these two very important targets. And IMTA is a win-win approach, because you at the same time you create new value chain, new wealth creation by selling different products at the same time, when taking care of the environment of environment and the waste. And so basically it's a very nice concept on that, even if there are still operational and scaling up challenges that are basically tackled in ASTRAL. So that's what I wanted to convey as some messages and some ideas and inputs today. So thank you for having heard me.
Thank you, Dominique. A really very nice overview about what is innovation in this moment in aquaculture, in different sectors and different compartments of the industry. And as Dominique say, is one of the main points in the project. We have a lot of interesting questions for you afterwards, so be ready.
Okay.
Now we go ahead a little bit. We are a little bit short of time, but I'm sure we will we'll be able to talk about everything. So now I would like to give the words about to Patricia Anyanwu, that is the Director of Research and also Head of the Department of Aquaculture at NIOM, the Institute of Oceanography and Marine Research in Nigeria. And she, besides being aquaculture scientist, she has, Patricia has worked a lot on capacity building and is part also the organization of for women in science for developing world. So it's a pleasure to have her in ASTRAL, and also to talk today about one of the tasks she's following, that is human capacity development in aquaculture. And we will have some questions for you at the end, but please, Patricia, share your presentation and start.
Thank you very much, Elisa, for inviting me to the program. I'm Patricia Anyanwu, and I'll be talking on the ASTRAL human capacity development in aquaculture. Aquaculture, according to FAO, is the fastest growing animal production sector, contributing about 52% of global fish supply in 2018. The figure on the right, the orange color is indicating capture fisheries, which is almost leveling up, whereas the blue color is indicating aquaculture. With the growth of aquaculture globally, you find in Africa, with suitable land and water resources for aquaculture production, we are contributing only 2.6% to world aquaculture, unlike Asia. And the major producing countries in Africa are Egypt, producing up to 1.5 million metric tons. Nigeria is second, 291,233 metric tons, followed by Uganda and Ghana. The challenges facing aquaculture production in Africa has been identified as low-skilled manpower, high cost of good quality fish feed, access to capital, and fish seed, among others. And for the growth of the African aquaculture, it suggested that strengthening skills, human capacity development, engaging the teaming use of women in aquaculture production will ensure increase in aquaculture. And the focus of the ASTRAL project is to address this human capacity development, as well as empowering women and mainstreaming them into aquaculture production. Looking at human capacity development in aquaculture, there is need to extract the aquaculture components. Sustainable aquaculture, as we all know, is multidisciplinary. From the three presenters we have listened to, we see a wide range of disciplines: aquaculture planning, aquaculture farm establishment, we have aquaculture production, a lot of subject matter specialists are needed. We have the fish feed formulation and production, fish post-harvest technology, fish marketing, aquaculture extension, and aquaculture economics. All these require skills to effectively engage in aquaculture production. Building human capacities have been identified to follow two normal trends. We have the formal training that are undertaken in the nursery, the primary, the secondary, and the tertiary, and then the informal training that we have with seminars, short courses, study tours, sensitizations, awareness campaign, and open days. The process of human capacity development in any sector involves a critical analysis of the industry value chain that's identified the skill gaps. Aquaculture also inclusive, identify the industry needs and major challenges, forecasting the future trends and needs, formulating the training models in line with the identified needs for both the present and the future, and then engage well-trained experts to conduct training and provide the needed skills. I will briefly look at a case study of human capacity development in Nigeria. what we call the Nigerian perspectives. The fish and aquaculture products in Nigeria are important food commodities. The average Nigerian obtains about 40% of the animal protein from fish. So fish is very vital in the diet of the average Nigerian. The country spends a lot of huge foreign exchange on importation of fish and fishery produce. It augments local production. Nigeria spends a lot of money importing fish from other countries. And that's the focus why government places high priority on increasing fish production through aquaculture. The aquaculture production in Nigeria is carried out in a lot of systems, the earth ponds, the concrete tanks, the plastic tanks, and the cages. Mainly production is inland with a few coastal, and we've not ventured into mariculture in the marine environment. The major species cultured is the African catfish, Clarias garipinus, which is contributing between 80 to 90% of aquaculture production. The other species that are cultured include tilapia, Oreochromis niloticus, few mangrove oyster, Crastostrea garza, and the black tiger shrimp, Pinus monodon. But overall, the mud catfish is being cultured and mostly in monoculture system in the different culture systems. There's also the development of integrated rice and fish farming, especially in the coastal areas, training the rice farmers to engage into aquaculture production. Empowerment, manpower empowerment in fisheries and aquaculture education is undertaken at both the formal and informal levels in Nigeria. The primary schools, the secondary schools, and the tertiary institutions. The aquaculture syllabus is already entrenched in the syllabus of these levels of education. In fact, in the secondary school, aquaculture and fishery is a trade subject which interested students undertake at their senior secondary school certificate. And this is encouraging them from the secondary, they move on to the tertiary institutions and they can offer aquaculture at the undergraduate level. A lot of institutions, universities, they have departments of aquaculture and fisheries that are well developed. We also have the African Regional Aquaculture Center that was set up by the FAO in the 80s and is hosted by the Nigerian Institute for Oceanography and Marine Research. It's affiliated to Rivers State University of Science and Technology, and it offers postgraduate diploma and Masters of Science in Aquaculture. This is a specialized institution that provides education in the aquaculture sector. There is a compulsory students industrial work experience for students of tertiary institutions offering aquaculture. Some aquaculture undergraduate spans from 4 to 5 years, depending on the faculty where the program is based, and students are encouraged, are allowed to go for up to 1 year IT in well-established institutions, farms. Excursions are undertaken to well-established fisheries and aquaculture institutions for education and training of these students. Nigeria has what we call the adopted schools and villages by the Fisheries Research Institutes and Colleges. It's a World Bank initiative sponsored by the West Africa Agricultural Productivity Program. The Fisheries Institutes are encouraged to adopt so many schools, establish mini farms, both in these schools and villages, and train and retrain the citizens and the students in different technologies that have been generated by these institutes and imparting these skills. There are also a lot of workshops, seminars, short courses, and training and empowerment of youth and women in the country. The government is placing a lot of emphasis on youth and women empowerment in aquaculture, and the federal government trains a lot of the youth and the women in this area. Slide this. Sorry, having a problem. This example, sorry for that, example of youth and women training in aquaculture. We train them and then we provide startup packs for the trainees to start their aquaculture businesses. Mobile tanks are provided, juveniles, and feed and other accessories. This is another form of training of the youths in tilapia production in harbors. Adopted school aquaculture activities where the students are trained. The institute will provide the facility initially, and the students are trained on the operations of aquaculture. Here we have the changing of water and also training for stocking of the ponds. The King's College Lagos is also one of the outreach stations for education and training. We have a lot of service providers for the informal education in aquaculture. Both the state and federal government, especially the Department of Fisheries and Aquaculture, are involved. The research institutes and colleges of fisheries and agriculture. The non-governmental organizations are very well versed in this project. Aquaculture, mainly in Nigeria, is private sector driven. The Fisheries Society of Nigeria, FISON, the Catfish Farmers Association of Nigeria, CAFAN, the All Farmers Association of Nigeria, the Niger Delta Development Commission, and a host of other non-governmental organizations have engaged a lot of youth and women in aquaculture, providing skills and providing startup packs for them to start their own aquaculture business. The FAO and European Union are also involved. World Bank projects, the World Fish Center, USAID market, as well as private individuals and farms. Now for the ASTRAL, which is the main focus for this topic, is on capacity development. The project will design capacity development for both the academic and non-academic training. We're going to map and align existing training programs at all levels in the Atlantic focus areas, in various institutions in the Atlantic countries. We catalog existing training deliveries and identify centers of excellence, determine stakeholders, conduct skill gap analysis, and identify training needs. The focus of ASTRAL is on integrated multi-trophic aquaculture. We are looking at the use of the Atlantic Ocean in blue growth for utilizing. And it's important that the Atlantic countries begin to harmonize their training curricula in order to look at the trend and the future needs for the industry. We develop course materials, we develop training packages, as well as look at the higher education curriculum. We are designing the training methodologies and the delivery mechanism for different groups of participants. The development plan will be robust and will harmonize curricula, skill competence, and content with existing training capacity programs of the Atlantic countries. And the essence is to create a highly trained, technically strong force and improve professional skills and competence in the identified thematic areas of ASTRAL. We're also going to conduct 6 training courses, especially integrated multi-trophic aquaculture, organize 6 apprentices, 2 summer schools and winter schools on IMTA production, which is the focus for ASTRAL. School campaigns are already on and creating social awareness on IMTA, ocean literacy, and seafood nutrition, especially in the secondary schools and primary schools. Students will be engaged. They will learn a lot about ocean, how to preserve ocean health and avoid pollution, and again, how to improve the supply of seafood and for the citizens to engage in eating a lot of seafood for maintaining good health. A lot of participatory workshops, knowledge sharing, and other workshops will be organized, either using webinars, depending on the situation of the COVID-19, or in person, depending on the situation. The project will also promote circularity, life cycle assessment, and water waste recycling. More importantly, ASTRAL will promote women empowerment and mainstreaming in aquaculture production. The project recognizes the role of women in aquaculture, especially in fish processing and marketing. We know that about the 90% of women are involved in the downstream sector of aquaculture. And this because they have less access to credit to go into production. Also, they don't have titles for land for the aquaculture production. And women constitute about 40% of the farming population, according to FAO in most developing countries. So they are a group of people to be engaged. We need to educate them and grant them economic empowerment, which is going to be very crucial for nation building and for food security. The women are the custodian of the home, the family, and they provide the nutrition needed. If they're educated and empowered, that will go a long way in achieving the sustainable development goals. This is one of the clips on women in fish processing in Nigeria. They process and they market. That's where they are prominent. The ASTRAL Women Empowerment and mainstreaming will mobilize more women into aquaculture production for economic empowerment, improve family nutrition and livelihood. We are going to develop programs that will target only women, as we are going to train them, and where funds permit, we provide startup paths, fish farm clusters. We're going to encourage them to go into fish farming within the home environment, strong homestead farming, and form strong cooperatives for them to access credit. For example, we have the Anchor Brewers program of the Central Bank of Nigeria, and for cooperatives, they can access it as a group. ASTRAL will be promoting a circular economy, and therefore the role of women will increase this aquaculture inter-sustainability, increase food availability across the Atlantic community, as well as globally. In conclusion, aquaculture is multidisciplinary. Curriculum development for both the formal and informal education in aquaculture must take cognizance of this multidisciplinary nature at both formal and informal. We've planned that universities especially should begin to restructure the course content for the Department of Fisheries and Aquaculture. The human capacity requires integrated approach so that you provide the critical mass of manpower, especially in the identified disciplines. The ASTRAL project will help to build this competence, and we deliver this highly skilled workforce for sustainable development of the aquaculture sector, especially in integrated multi-trophic aquaculture. The project at the end will be able to, after 4 years, monitor and evaluate. We'll be able to have centers that we have interested people can go for learning, and also the Women Empowerment Program. The more women will be engaged in aquaculture production. I want to thank the organizer, Elisa, the NORCE, and the European Union for this laudable project. I'm also grateful to our team members at NIOMA for all this support, especially the executive director, and also the different team members of the work packages that have been working very hard to ensure the success of this project. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Patricia. Very nice talk about what we plan to do as capacity building, and especially the women role in aquaculture. Well, without further ado, since we are a little bit short on time, now, so we have seen a point of view of, let's say, experienced researcher, and now we would like to leave the floor for two of other PhD students that have been enrolled through ASTRAL. So our first PhD speaker will be Bruna Guterres, that is doing her PhD at the Federal University of Rio Grande, FURC. And Bruna is working on, so her PhD thesis is working on automated machine identification of harmful algal bloom through computer vision and deep learning approaches. And if you can share your presentation, Bruna.
Yes, sure. Just are you able to see my screen?
Yes, already in presentation mode. Please.
Oh.
Thank you.
Thank you. Firstly, I'd like to thank these Networking Friday organizers for the opportunity to talk a little bit phytoplankton monitoring within the ASTRAL project, and as well as everyone who is watching us today. Sorry. Firstly, we can define harmful algae blooms or HABs as an intense proliferation of phytoplankton species within the aquatic environment. Some species, they are capable of releasing toxic substances and may cause human disease, large-scale marine mortality, and also economic impacts to aquaculture production sites. Many HABs may be identified by their characteristic bioluminescence and also by the color of the water due to the high density of pigmented cells that causes the depletion of oxygen and the mortality of organisms. So there is an imperative need to monitor these events, especially when we talk about aquaculture production sites. There are many technologies for HAB monitoring nowadays, and conventional satellite-based approaches have many limitations, and the images are affected by local climate conditions. Moreover, the approach based on the water surface analysis, they are usually appropriate for detecting large densities of phytoplankton cells, while the analysis of microscopic images allow us to individually evaluate phytoplankton organisms. And this approach usually covers the collection of water samples for further inspections on lab setups, but there are some automated field instruments that are both rare and also expensive. So, is it feasible to detect HABs in early stages through automated in situ sensors? We believe so, and we believe that the analysis of microscopic images plays an important role on this task. Artificial intelligent models have provided appropriate accuracies when we talk about phytoplankton classification based on images, but there are still some challenges. For instance, the data sets capture the natural imbalances within the aquatic environment, on which the majority species, they are imaged more often than rare organisms. And the images, they inherit variability in terms of posture, rotation, and size. And we have also high intra-class variability and similarities among phytoplankton species. And it still prevents our artificial intelligent models to detect morphologically similar species. There are several techniques to improve the classification accuracy for minority classes. At a data level, we can cite the data augmentation that increases the amount of images we have to train our artificial intelligent algorithms. And at an algorithm level, we can list the deep learning collaborative models. As Elisa mentioned, on ASTRAL, we target our aquaculture production sites, especially our integrated multi-trophic aquaculture producers from Brazil, Ireland, Scotland, Argentina, and Ireland. And among the target phytoplankton species, we have highlighted the toxin-producing ones that will be especially targeted within our artificial intelligent models. We have trained some convolutional neural networks to perform the classification of phytoplankton images based on public data sets, but these are preliminary results, and we still are working on another approach to deal with the class imbalancing problems and the morphologically similar species at both data and algorithm level. So among the main contributions of the ASTRAL project to the HAB monitoring problem, we will provide early warnings for producers through a real-time HAB monitoring system for aquaculture production sites. And we will also integrate our artificial intelligence models trained and also validated in relevant environments for regional species recognitions. And we will target species with larger than 10 microns. Finally, as Dominique has mentioned, we are building a low-cost image-based sensor for in situ monitoring, and it is based on novel GPU-based platforms with high-resolution cameras. And in a nutshell, we can say that ASTRAL project will provide a cost-effective and complete solution when it comes to HAB monitoring for aquaculture applications. Thank you for your attention, and please contact us in case of any doubts.
Thank you, Bruna. Thank you so much. And it's really very nice to see our PhD students contributing to, to the project through their research. And our second PhD, we are not going so far, still at the FURG, and is Andrezza Carvalho. She is working instead, while Bruna is working more on the technology side. Andrezza is working more on the production. In fact, she will talk about her thesis about integrated multi-trophic aquaculture and the use of microalgae in the absorption of nutrients in shrimp farming. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to share my presentation. That's okay?
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you for the opportunity. I'm showing the results of my work with an integrated system with a macroalgae and a biofloc system. So unlike a conventional farming with a farming shrimp in the biofloc system has a little water exchange without you compromising the water quality by stimulating the production of the microorganisms that consume the nitrogen. So in the systems have a multi-trophic bacteria, so convert ammonia to nitrate, and nitrate is accumulating the systems, reacting the high concentrations. And have heterotrophic bacteria, so assimilates the system's ammonia and transform into bacterial biomass. So increase the total suspended solids and the organic matter of the system. So the problem is a discharge of the effluent with high concentrations of nitrogen, phosphates, organic matter in the rivers and the sea, and can cause the eutrophication and death of the organism. So maybe a solution will be the use of macroalgae to absorb the nitrogen available in the system for growing biomass. So I realized 2 experiments to evaluate the best performance of the uva macroalgae, uva flexuosa, and uva fasciata when cultivated alone or together with a shrimp. Determine the best density of algae in the system so that a better absorption of nutrients occurs, and to verify the zootechnical performance of the shrimp integrated system, and determine the protein content of macroalgae growing in the systems. So I realized the experiments in Marine Aquaculture Station. It's a federal University of Rio Grande, Brazil. And the macroalgae were collecting natural environments, and weekly algae biomass is measured to determine the relative growth rate and analyze of protein composition. Water quality is a measured, and weekly shrimp biometries were performed. So in the first experiment, I use uva fasciata and uva flexuosa. 3 4 treatments with a shrimp and uva flexuosa, shrimp and uva fasciata, shrimp and the 2 algae, and a monoculture of shrimp. So the results show a difference between treatments, turbidity, alkalinity, nitrate. Turbidity is lower in the integrate system because deposition of the solids on the macroalgae. And alkalinity is a better integrate system because compared to monoculture, I use a less calcium carbonate for the correction, so it's more economical, the system. And by the nitrate, it's an objective. In the end of cultivation, nitrate concentrations are high in shrimp monoculture, so increase the nitrate, but in integrate system with uva fasciata, concentration is lower compared to monoculture. So have absorption of the nitrogen by the macroalgae. But about the performance of macroalgae, the relative growth rates show a less biomass because the sporulation, the solids on the macroalgae, so no realize the photosynthesis, and the treatment with the 2 macroalgae maybe have interspecific competition, but this no interfere in the absorption of nitrogen. And about the shrimp, the macroalgae does not interfere with the zootechnical performance of shrimp, so no have a difference between treatments on monoculture and the integrated systems. So the conclusion of the first experiment, uva flexuosa, greater loss of biomass, so not good for integrated system. Uva fasciata show better performance compared to uva flexuosa. Macroalgae were efficient in removing nitrate and improve the water quality parameters, and there is no negative effects of macroalgae cultivation on the performance of shrimp. So in the second experiment, I use a uva fasciata, so it's a better performance, and 3 different densities, 1 gram per liter, 2 and 3 grams per liter, and a monoculture of shrimp. The result is similar for the first experiment. Alkalinity is better integrated system because you use a less calcium carbonate for the correction. Suspended solids is lower because in the figure you can see the solids deposits on the macroalgae. And about the total ammonia nitrogen, and they too increase the ammonia in the monoculture, so it's necessary application of organic carbon to control ammonia. We use a molasses, but integrated system is not necessary because no increase, because have absorption of the ammonia by the macroalgae. So it's economy too because in the integrated systems not use molasses. And about the nitrates, there is a best absorption when the macroalgae growing in low density. So 1 gram per liter is better, so absorption maybe because they not have a competition in the high density. And when the macroalgae is cultivated with high concentrations of nitrogen, increase nitrogen in the tissue of macroalgae, so increase the protein. So compare final protein, and with initial, you can see increase the protein in the macroalgae. And about the shrimp, the macroalgae does not interfere in the zootechnical performance of shrimp, so no have a difference between monoculture and integrated systems. So the conclusion of the presentation, uva fasciata macroalgae reduce the nitrogen available in the integrated cultivation. So you have, in the end of cultivation, you have a less nitrogen in the system compared to monoculture. You have a more economy because the integrated system a less use of calcium carbonates, and more less compared to monoculture because the macroalgae realize the balance and absorb the nitrogen and improve the other parameters. And you have a shrimp production because macroalgae not interfere in the zootechnical performance. you increase the productivity because you grow a new biomass in the system, use the water available in the nitrogen available in the system, you with high protein content in the macroalgae. And finally, you can produce a more sustainable system using the integrated systems. So thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Andrezza. It's really very exciting study, also yours. And I'm really very grateful for that both Andrezza and Bruna have accepted to talk about their studies, because this is one of what Patricia was talking before about our capacity building, in this case at academic level, but we have way more in the pipeline at all levels and in a different discipline. So stay tuned. So this, Andrezza, was the last presentation we had today, and I think now I can start the Q&A session. So I will ask all the panelists to turn on their camera and be ready to answer. I will go, so I hope I took care of signing up all the, sorry, I'm using 2 screens because there is a lot to take care of. All the questions, and I will pull some of them just to be able to answer to you all. So the first is from Angola, Antonio, and I think Joanne maybe is the best to answer this one. How can IMTA research developed in South Africa or elsewhere can be adopted to Angola? We have a different condition and marine species, and how they can start a local test pilot that does not impact environment on endemic biodiversity. That in a way is what our IMTA, prospective IMTA in Argentina is doing. Please, Joanna.
I think the first things from the offset is you have a blank canvas. So it's similar to the case in Argentina, to look what locally is required from the market, look at the site suitability, and then you'd have to look at things like licensing and legislation and regulation to try set up infrastructure in place to operate your IMTA. So to start with your blank canvas and build it from there. And there's plenty of expertise to look into and to get in contact with the project if there is something in particular that they want to get.
Yes, thank you so much. Yes, of course, we have to say that the people that are representing Astral here are representing one part of the project. Of course, we have so many other activities and expertise in the consortium. So please keep in touch with us, and we will direct if you have a specific question to the right people. And then, Dominique, you have some question about more the technology and how to do it and how to start. One interesting question is about the fact that this monitoring system, or anyway technology system, are really very expensive. So how can we avoid to have only multinational or, of course, industry to develop, but also helping, you know, small realities?
Yeah, this is a very good question, and actually a very strong focus that we have in Astral, I must say. So that the low cost is the key. So of course, aquaculture is very diverse in terms of the practices, from a very small farm and to very big companies acting worldwide and looking at different solutions in different range of prices, I must say. So, but at the end, so with the development, the present development, I think so it's very important to look for developing a capacity of control, and possibly the first prototypes and the first part will be expensive, and the cost will reduce through time, especially when the market will grow, because the result will be, in terms of value, will be high. So we have to follow the market. But meanwhile, at least in Astral, and because of this cooperation across the Atlantic that we have, so we don't want to let anyone on the side, and that's the reason why we put a special focus on trying to develop more the software aspect and not the hardware, keeping the hardware easy, low price, low cost, and developing the software part that will be low cost also, but to provide a high level of information for the operation. So this is a strategy in itself.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Would you like also to answer directly the question about if it's possible to deploy camera technology in submarine cage in exposed coastline, like in South Africa and Namibia? We don't have an open system in South Africa, but there are.
Yeah, thanks, Suleiman, for your question. And the answer is very easy because this is yes. So this is already what we're doing in Astral, what we're also developing with some of the partners in Astral in another project, complementary, and everything is to be deployed in situ or on site, and supporting rough environment. And you can imagine also that. Even if I'm not Norwegian, but working in Norway, we are used also to rush environment, and yeah, we are very looking to that. So the technology they developed is to be deployed in any kind of context, also extreme context.
Yeah, thank you. And then a question that I think maybe is more for Joanne. We are talking about technology and new species and so on with the previous question. And of course, Stefania from Brazil is saying we need also specialized human capital that sometimes is not available in the poor countries. And I think Patricia has explained quite well what we plan to do in Astral, but maybe Patricia, would you like to say a couple of words?
Thank you very much, Elisa. The Astral project on the human capacity development, we are going to map out the existing curriculum and the different universities of especially the participating countries, and then we identify the skill gap. This program we are developing is integrated multi-trophic aquaculture, and we are going to look at how many universities or institutions that are developing integrated multi-trophic aquaculture, and how this can be incorporated into the new design of their curriculum. For example, in Nigeria, we've already met with the Nigerian University Commission last week or so, with the Director of Curriculum Development, and we have been able to bring forth this new area of aquaculture production, where we have different species being cultured together, other than the monoculture system that we have been planning. Astral will be able to organize training programs, and during these 6 training courses in the IMTA labs, most of these will be online, so a lot of people will be able to key in and then have a first-hand knowledge of the training aspect of the IMTA labs. Apprenticeship will also be carried out, and then the school campaigns and the social awareness, as well as other programs that have been applied for the IMTA awareness campaign, we help to deliver the focus for entrenching IMTA in most of the aquaculture production, especially for Atlantic countries, which is the focus of the Astral project. I think this will go a long way to develop skill and competence for the aquaculture industry. I think that helps. Sort of.
Thank you. We have also a question from Benin that also they're asking if we are linking also to Benin or Togo. And the project is not as a NEV partner there, but as Patricia was saying, we are organizing this course, especially the theoretical part. We are trying to go online, not only for world situation with the pandemic, but also because we can reach more people. So the practical part, of course, is a little bit difficult. It needs to be face-to-face, but the theoretical part will be available for a large audience through our channels. And we are also starting to organize some webinars, so shorter, let's say, and focused information. So stay tuned and follow us in our social media. Let's go ahead, and also this I think I would like to ask Joanna, for example. IMTA is 20 years old and is a win-win concept. Which percentage of aquaculture produced follows IMTA principle? Is it increasing or not? How we can speed up this development or taking up of IMTA?
Okay, thank you for the question. I'll try to answer, but feel free to follow up. I think the main constraints are largely economic and regulatory. There is well-developed IMTA systems in some regions, but I think where it hasn't been developed, I think the main constraints really rely with economics and regulatory setups and arrangements. Adding additional species, it adds complexity, and expertise is required. So with this change, it always comes with risk. So I think there's probably a bit of reluctance on maybe the operator's part, on the local regulator's part, to jump into an IMTA style system. I see Dominique, you'd like to thing there.
So I'd prepare an answer to Jean-Pierre Kozak that was exactly along the same line. But knowing that Jean-Pierre is working at in CLS in France, so in the satellite business, so I wanted to add on a little part related more to use of satellite data, because I fully agree with you, Joanne, that the regulatory framework and complexity are the two main things. The conflict of interest in terms of aerial use and aerial planning also can be an issue in some part, or will always be an issue actually also when it relates to IMTA. So and there of course the use of the satellite data for the mapping and as a support for the aerial planning and the choose of location and assessment also on the impact positive or negative of the installation of an IMTA system in a region. I think as a potential here as an important tool, especially when we think about covering any part of the coastline of the world. So then satellite data is always a very good start to make the right take the right decision to begin with.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm just jumping here and there in a way. Yes, again, I think it's again a question actually for both Joanna, Dominique, and Patricia. Is how can small island developing state in the Caribbean region adopt a circular economy model for aquaculture if they don't have always the critical mass to support the full waste management value chain? I don't know who wants to answer first. Should we go first with the biology and then with the technology, or the way around?
Yeah, possibly best for with the biology first, and
So Joanna, if you can answer, and then we can maybe picking up with Patricia about the knowledge needed.
And yeah, I don't really have the expertise to discuss IMTA in the Caribbean. My area of expertise is more Northeast Atlantic. But I think going on what we said earlier is to look at the market driven. So what's your end product going to be? And then look to what's available, and the small scale systems are available. So small capacity with great benefits and great outputs. And I'll let Dominique pick up on the technology element to assist in that.
Can you just repeat the question, Elisa, just for me to be sure to answer targeted?
Sure. How can small island developing state in the Caribbean region adopt a circular economy model for aquaculture if we do not always have a critical mass to support the full waste management value chain? I'm not so sure if the critical mass is people following or critical mass of waste to have a chain.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah.
I must say. My answer would be that first, yes, circularity. Yeah, it's a concept with very different dimensions, very different solutions, and very adaptable type aspect that should always fit the reality of where the things take place, and just making the best use of the capacity in a present in a region. So in small island with a reduced capacity for treating, for example, waste and so on. So certainly the solution of shipping the waste to another place is not a good solution, because then you are basically just displacing the problem or the environmental challenge another place. So and that's where possibly IMTA approach, which has an on-site contribution to circularity based on the species to be exploited, and I think in the coral reef type environment there is a lot of opportunity, because there's already a very tight ecosystem in terms of with different species from or seaweed or algae, crustacean, mollusk, and fish, very tightly linked, especially also, so that there is a lot of opportunity of IMTA in this region to be looked at to start with before looking at the big waste, but possibly. So it will be my answer like that, and I have to think a little bit about that, and we can keep in touch, or you can contact me or Joanne to have a follow-up conversation on that, because it's a very interesting challenge.
Definitely, and also our colleagues that are taking care of the circularity and waste value product. Okay, I can answer this about if we have something in the consortium looking at the aquaculture and agriculture together. No, not specifically, but as Dominica was saying before, some of our of course there are different species, so different chain to evaluate, but at least from the technological side, if you succeed in the marine environment, then we can apply also to other environment, but not specifically any study agriculture, aquaculture. But I know that Patricia, for example, in Nigeria, you already have something putting together aquaculture and agriculture as a sort of IMTA or integrated production.
Fish farming. We have integrated fish farming with agriculture animals, especially rice and compatible species, rice and fish, or other livestock, vegetable production. Aquaponics is all available for adoption. I will suggest during the training program for ASTRAL on these IMTA labs, which will be online, I think it will be open for those interested to register, and I will sort of advise the small islands to key into it, and when they key into it, they can then begin to, disseminate to other interested people in the country. The experts can key into the IMTA training program, and then they can begin to disseminate. If also they can invite some of the experts from the 4 or 5 labs to come to their country to train the trainers. In such a way, they can begin to develop the critical mass for the circular economy. It's about waste recycling and income generation.
Yes. Thank you, Patricia. Exactly. Bruna, we have a question for you. How soon can the camera and automatic analysis detect hab occurrence so that the company can have enough time to react and maybe move the fish cage or other response?
Thank you for the question. It is really interesting. Unfortunately, we still don't have this information, but according on how many time we have until between the detection and the action to act on the aquaculture farms, but we are working to have as much as time as possible, and we will have a better understanding on this topic when we deploy our sensors in the aquaculture farms. Yeah. I hope I answered it. Thank you.
Yeah. But Bruna has just started her work, so follow what she is doing, and she will have probably an answer soon through the work they are doing in her task and her work package. I can answer this one. There are groups within the consortium working with the hydrodynamic and water quality modeling. Hydrodynamic, not in this project. Of course, we have partners in other projects working on that. The water quality modeling, Dominique, I revert to you this part. Maybe we can touch what one of our partners is doing.
Yeah, so I wanted to link this question to the previous one, actually.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, because the technology for identifying and warning on the harmful algae is one thing. Where the technology is deployed to give the time for reaction is another aspect, and then it relates really to the hydrodynamics and to the current. So having placed a technology upstream, so knowing the current or the local current and putting that upstream to have a warning or possible warning 2 days in advance, knowing of the motion of the water masses is also something to consider. It's not only about the technology and how quick is the technology, but the deployment is there, and then the hydrodynamics and the current energy is very much a very key factor, and that's the reason why I link to this question. Or to the second question, hydrodynamics and water quality. So it's not, of course, the focus of this particular project, knowing that there is other projects under the same umbrella of contributing also to the Belém Statement across the Atlantic, looking more at some aspect of ocean observing, coastal observing, ecosystem monitoring, ecosystem management, also so more on the research side, and looking more at that. But at least in ASTRAL, so we are looking at water quality in different directions. So we are looking at plastics. We are looking also at water quality as a support for plankton and harmful algae in terms of nutrients and of new technology also to give access to that. On the modeling part, so actually we have a very strong group on hydrodynamics and biogeochemical modeling, but more applied to the climate issue, because we are taking into account also a lot of the climate scenario into the sustainability approach in ASTRAL. So we have a very strong competence in ASTRAL on that, but not directly related to the hydrodynamics I think as the question is pointing to, but more in the climate perspective. Yeah. And biogeochemistry, and then water quality. I mean.
Exactly. And then we have a question for Andrezza, actually. Can we also use ULVA for the improvement of the water quality parameters in sea bass? Robalo, I think, is the local name.
Okay, you can repeat the question?
Sure. If we can use ULVA for the improvement of the water quality parameters in sea bass aquaculture. That is Robalo, I think, in local.
Yes, because ULVA is a local, and here have just in the region just ULVA, so it's better for me work with the local macroalgae. It's work better in here.
No, I think the question is because you did a study with the shrimp, and Carlos would like to know if you could have the same results or similar results in the water quality parameters also growing sea bass with ULVA.
No, not yet. You have just a shrimp.
Yeah, okay. but for sure it's something to look into it. Maybe maybe Carlos, you can take contact with Andrezza offline, and then you can discuss a bit more in detail. Okay. I would like to ask the last question to Dominique. Now I have to find it, sorry. Yes, how can technology be developed for feed optimization in aquaculture to reduce cost? Big question. Please answer within 1 hour.
No. Yeah, so optimization of feed. So yeah, so I thought about this question before, but so the cost of feed. So yeah, let's say that. So yeah, I presented a number of aspects of developing new feeds as a way of making that more sustainable. And of course, some of this new value chain are not competitive at present, related to market, related to soy and to things which are grown. Even taking into account the transport. So what we see is that a more local production closer to production of feed closer to the production or the use of the feed will at least reduce a lot of the cost of transport. And having two benefits on the cost itself and of course and on the environment. So this is one thing that can make the new feed ingredients closer to competitiveness compared to present practices. The other part, of course, is going in terms of on the scaling up. When we're talking about using microalgae to produce a fish feed through circularity, as it was presented, so we're still talking about small or medium scale or pilot scale type production and not a full commercial scale. And of course the price decrease when the scales increase. So we're still in this a bit gap between in this transition, and it's of course you have that in any part of the transition where the capacity is demonstrated. You see the next step, but the economical framework and the economical sustainability, if I come back to my presentation, is not completely in place. So the market has to take that and has to have the vision to see the opportunity to develop that another scale, because then the price will reduce and the transition will be implemented fully. So that will be my answer.
Yeah. No, thank you so much. I think it's very well done. There is a lot of projects and a lot of research on this topic. So I think really very soon we will have some interesting results to discuss about. I want to answer live another question. Is there a way to engage with the ASTRAL project? Of course, we are always happy to talk with you and to talk with about our research and expanding our network. Actually, we'll be really very happy if you want to engage with us. I can share my screen, but I ask the panelists to remain online, please. I just wanted to, now it's gone, of course, where it is. Just a moment, I lost my presentation. Okay, too many things open. What I wanted to say is we have a lot that we are doing in ASTRAL that could be interesting. This today we have presented only one part of what we are doing and what we are following up in ASTRAL. And so please stay tuned with us. Follow our social media. And also, I would like you to invite all of you. Let's see if now I can see. Yes, this one. Let me see if you see my screen. Probably better in presentation mode. Yes, with our how we call it twin sister project. It means that is a project that has been awarded in exactly the same call as us, Aquavite. And with the European Aquaculture Technology Platform, EATIP, we are organizing a side event to the event that will take place next week, that is the All Atlantic 2021, where is a high-level event about all the research that is going on aquaculture. And already the event is really very nice, but we had the possibility to have some side event before, so the second and the third. Have a look at it, because there are many, but well, all of them actually are very interesting. So will be difficult to choose for one or the other. But I am inviting you all to participate and to register to our specific event, that is Developing Sustainable Aquaculture in Atlantic. Where we will have some presentation from many of partners from both projects, from both sides of the Atlantic, in very different topics. So please follow us. I think maybe there was, now I'm talking with Jose, that wanted to maybe to introduce us someone. I don't see any. I'm getting out of the full screen.
I don't see any hands raised anymore.
Okay.
Probably the answer.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Perfect. Then I would like to wrap up the session. You have on the screen all our contacts. Just follow us, engage with us. I want to thank you, all the panelists today. There's been, thank you for participating, and to also be so engaged in the Q&A session. I want to thank you, of course, the AIR Center for organizing the session, especially Jose and Tanya, that have worked very hard for that, and to all of you to being with us. So I don't want to say goodbye, but I hope to say see you next week at the side event, or later on, just take contact with us individually or through the Astral media, and then we will direct you if you have specific question to the right people. So thank you from me, and I guess maybe the panelists want to say thank you and goodbye too.
Thank you and goodbye. No, it was nice to be here today with all of you, and very nice and good questions and good debate. So in another context, it could have been a very good debate face to face, but it will be for another time. Yeah,
but we could reach way more people in this way instead of the face to face. So
that's true.
So thank you to Joanna, thank you to Andrezza, thank you to Bruna and Patricia and Dominique. And I think we will stop now. Thank you, and have a nice end of the day and weekend, sooner or later, depending where you are. Thank you. Bye.
Great. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.